Good afternoon, everyone. Everyone's still wide awake and rearing to go? Yes? Oh, brilliant. So our presentation here today isn't just to do with the TWI method. What we want to talk about is about 5 years worth of mistakes. And I don't mean all 5 years were just total mistakes, but what we've learned over the last 5 years from doing TWI, and also how we've managed to learn how to improve how we improve. If that makes sense. And also the fact that the speed of which we're doing our improvements at the moment. So I know Denis is going to talk now about the actual company itself for a few minutes.
Okay, so Gemalto, this is the boring part, but I just want to take you through this for 2 minutes to give you a little bit of a context. Now, many of you won't know who Gemalto are, but there's a good chance that you've got our technology right there in your pocket. You know, we do credit cards, passports, all sorts of stuff that you can touch, but we're not about the stuff that you can touch, you know, the secure identification, you know, making your personal transactions as you go through your life secure. You know, you're logging onto the internet. Who is not worried about someone stealing your passport? Show of hands. Anyway, but it's actually quite dramatic, you know, security, this perception of insecurity in the world, you know, is increasing on all fronts, and we're serving big telecommunications providers, and it's all about the way that you securely go through your life with confidence and easy as well. You know, you don't want to log on and have a really complex procedure to get into your internet banking. So there's a lot of stuff that we do. We are actually about the software which is inside, but we also do have quite substantial manufacturing. And, you know, okay, the data you can read for yourselves. The interesting part is that, well, I'm personally looking after the continuous improvement for the 48 sites. Well, not personally, I travel a lot to the different sites. And what we're going to talk about today is kind of the learning from that journey. So I have a global team, but I also was in charge of the local improvement in the UK for quite a few years, also engineering and maintenance manager at some time. And Andy has been working with me for a long time, so he's the guy who does the doing, I do the talking for the most part. So we'll see, you know, that's why I brought Andy along, because if you have any questions about the practicalities, he's a really great guy to talk to in the coffee break afterwards. Anyway, so quite a big challenge, not as big as some of the other companies that I've been talking today, but quite international. Small and big size. And one of the defining characteristics of our company is that our manufacturing or operations sites are quite different. So we have typical batch manufacturing type, you know, where we're making the cards, which is, you know, longer lead times and, you know, typical manufacturing. Initially, when we started out the lean journey, sort of, you know, processing villages and all of the classical stuff, you know, fast machines and all of this sort of stuff. But there's the other side of the business, which is all about super high-speed fulfillment. So the data, your personal banking data, comes into our sites, which are high security. They get put on the card. You get, you know, we print your letter that you're getting with your card and the information and the PIN number and stuff like that, and 4 or 5 hours later it's already on the way to you. So we're talking about a high variation, small batches, short lead time type environment on the one side, and a, you know, big batch, long lead time type environment. So this TWI journey really is kind of covering a bit both of these sides, I guess. Right. Global reach of our current program, we've got 30 senior trainers. What we call senior trainers are the people who are delivering the 10-hour class. 30 senior trainers in 11 of our major centers. Most of these guys actually cover some of the smaller centers that are geographically close to them. So quite a bit undertaking. Needless to say, you know, all of these sites are kind of a different maturity level, not only in lean, but also in TWI. But it kind of, you know, once you've done it once or twice or 3 times, then it becomes a little bit easier to predict what difficulties you're going to run into. So I think we've seen in these presentations that, you know, all of us, we're grappling at some point in our journey with kind of similar challenges, I guess. Global Deployment also means, of course, lots of different languages. We are currently working with JI and JM in 8 languages, including China, which is, of course, of interest to some of you guys who are expanding. You know, we've been talking about expanding into China as this goes along. Right, in terms of results, now this is a story not so much to show off the results. This is a story about 2 things. Impact, which is dramatic with TWI, all of the TWI programs, you know. You're achieving much, in my experience, we're achieving much more from TWI than we ever achieved with Lean or Six Sigma or the other stuff. You know, we're cutting changeover times by 75% in 1 or 2 months. That's absolutely unbelievable. So there's, you know, the speed and the impact, and that's what TWI is all about for me. You know, you don't need to, you know, we've done Six Sigma and all of this other stuff, but you don't need it in order to get the improvement. So, you know, here you see actually 4 TWI journeys, some of which are kind of, we started off in parallel. The first journey was in the UK, and I'm going to be talking about that a little bit later, where we trained 100 operators. You know, we were saying earlier, oh, start it off slowly, you know, take it slowly, step by step, grow it gradually and stuff like that. Well, we did it the other way around. That's the first mistake I wanted to run past you. You know, we did it the other way around. We had a need, we converted to cellular manufacturing almost overnight. So we had, you know, the VP came to the operations director and myself and said, you guys, I'm going to close, well, more or less, he was a bit, you know, of a guy who liked to put on a show. And he said, I'm going to close this site down if you haven't converted into cellular manufacturing in 6 months. And by that, he meant actually performing and stuff like that. No, we had to do building work, we had to rip out walls, create an open plan environment and stuff like that, and cross-train all of our workforce, because these guys were used to actually just working on 1 machine, each of them. And anyway, I'm going to come back to that. Then we moved into, you know, second journey is kind of the personalization environment, away from manufacturing, short lead times, higher variation and stuff like that. Then we started to expand globally, which carries its own challenges. And now we're kind of getting into, you know, now that we have TWI going in many sites, we're getting into global standardization. And the Lego guys, of course, talked about, you know, the challenges of standardizing across sites, which now leads us on to journey number 5, is to create a plug-and-play TWI solution for our sites, because the technologies, if not exactly the same, are quite similar. So how do I go into a site, I set up a site, and I bring in all of the framework that I need in order to train up my people in a short period of time and get the manufacturing running, because many of our sites are quite small, because we want to be close to the customer. So a different kind of journey. Right, now this idea of speed, you know, we saw these pilots delivering in a short period of time this extreme impact, you know, cutting changeover times and saving so much money and stuff like that. It kind of got us thinking, if our pilots deliver this, can we grow this? Can we make this a business system for ourselves, that we improve the speed of improvement? If you think back to, you know, we've heard a bit of history, you know, oh no, how did he start Lean? Well, he wanted to catch up with the Americans in a short period of time, right? You know, that was the theme for Toyota at the time. It was always about catching up with the competition, moving faster than the competition. And TWI facilitates that. You know, we were talking about George Koenigsegger, I don't know, you know, just to drop a few names. He talks about double-digit improvement in 4 dimensions, including employee satisfaction. We've got Mike Rother talking about, you know, how do we create or change a culture. We've got Steven Spear talking about chasing the rabbit. Everybody's talking about improving the speed of improvement. So we've come back full cycle to Ono, really, you know, where Toyota actually started out. So this is the theme, fast-paced improvement or fast-paced Lean. Now, in order to do that, we've kind of stripped it back. Lean is all about simplicity, right? The more we grow the complexity of our system, the less likely it's to work. TWI is really simple. And so you've got, you know, the kata, the things that we do, the 4-step methods. That's why TWI is so great, because we repeat it over and over again. And it's really simple to teach, but very deep. The more you do it, the more you learn. So 3 capabilities here: catching problems. If I can't catch problems, I can't solve the problems. If I've solved the problems, I get the sawtooth effect we heard about earlier, you know, of improving, slipping back, improving, slipping back. So when I put these 3 together, I can catch problems, solve problems, and stabilize the process. I've got an improvement system. I don't need anything else. That's 95% of the improvement job at least done. Yeah? So now, of course, my people are not used to working like that. So I have to manage the transitions of the people. So we're going to be talking about not so much about this. Andy said we're not going to be talking about the method. We've heard so much about the method. We want to talk about transitions for the people and the routines. The routines are the things. So yesterday, I think the Lego guys were saying, Marcus and Vinny, 30% of my instructor time has to be dedicated to job instruction. Well, how do I make that happen? It is just by implementing the routines that ensure that these guys do it regularly over and over again. And by that, they're learning the method. They're getting better at the method. So this is a theme about, activating the routine or activating the capacity. i.e., I've got all of these brains on the shop floor. How do I make them work for the continuous improvement system? And building capacity in the sense that, I don't have more people, but I'm getting more out of them. Because the more they do it, the better they become. Jim was saying that earlier. The more I repeat the kata, the better I become at actually using the method. So by putting the kata, the transitions, and the routines together, I've got a really simple yet challenging improvement system that helps me to actually build up the skills and improve the speed of improvement. So we're going to be talking you through the transitions and the routines a little bit here. Okay? Manage transitions. Now I'm going to scoot over here. We've got a few videos for you. I hope this works. Microsoft and Apple don't really work together. I've tried to integrate it many times. I always fail.
We had a number of attempts at changing methods and a lot of buzzword deployments, which were effectively like a firework, very bright to begin with, but burnt out very quickly. And we realised that in typical iceberg kind of analogy, all of the things we ever dealt with were the things above the waterline, and that to truly sustain a change, we needed to deal with things that were below the waterline. Desire and commitment to deploy TWI throughout all of our levels of our business, that once we'd reached the critical mass, started to influence the culture. If you do it in a kind of scattergun approach, and certainly avoid some of the more senior ranks of the business, it will fail.
About operators who have to be released from their day-to-day duties, and so from a management point of view, we need to support that and allow time to do that. We have new staff coming into the department. It has to be done using the TWI method. We can't go backwards. We can't. Sometimes it can be seen as the easy way back into doing the buddy system. It can't be done.
As a member of the quality team, I thoroughly enjoyed working with the problem-solving teams. It gave me a far better insight as to what happens day to day with the operators and the issues they see day to day. So for me, it was a good move.
I found it really interesting working on the problem-solving teams. It gave me greater knowledge of what happens on the shop floor. I was able to understand some of the processes which perhaps I didn't know about before. And I also found I was able to get to know people a lot better and mix in with their teams, and they got to know me better. From a HR point of view, we'll see the attitudes and the morale of the shop floor improving. Operators will certainly feel more empowered, and I think that can only be a good thing for us in the business and productivity.
So much of this footage, for those of you who've seen me speak before, you've seen some of this footage. This is not new stuff really, but still quite interesting. If I just can get the technology to work now. Okay, go back. Okay, Andy's going to take you through the next bit then.
Okay, so what we wanted to do was to build natural teams and have some support. And our goal is to actually speed up improvement. But we talk about fast-paced. What is fast-paced? It's a short project cycle that doesn't allow you to drop back into your old ways, so you've got to make sure that that happens, but it's got to be a big step as well. That's how we defined what fast-paced is. And how are we going to do this? We increase improvement capacity and how it's utilised as well. And we do this by involving the people. So, brains and hands. Now, I don't know if this is like an English statement, but when you come into work, you check your brains at the door? No? Have you heard that? But that's what we don't want people to do. And people tend to do that. They come in and say, okay, that's our job done. But we need these people for their ideas, for the improvements. So, actually, do you ever show of hands? How many of your companies actually have an improvement suggestion system? Yeah, supposed to, yeah, I thought. But, I mean, we find you get a bottleneck. You try to implement some of these, there's a bottleneck because you can only do so many because it tends to be, you've got so many people have got all these ideas and they come and bombard you with the ideas, and then you've perhaps got one or two guys that say, oh, we're the ones who've got to implement them. But they can't do it. They haven't got the time. And what happens then is the guys who've given you the original ideas don't see any movement. They get pissed off with it. And it's, well, I'm not giving you another suggestion again. And it sort of like withers out. But with the TWI systems, it helps teach people to develop their ideas. I'll come back to the suggestions in a moment, actually. But what I want to do is talk about our natural teams. Now, our first step is we change the layout. We see that as our first step to implementing the teams. But it's not just a case of we change the layout, because we want the actual cell to be a team. And in our cells, we've got, say, more than one machine within the cell. Now, what tends to happen is anyone who works on say, their one machine, this is my machine. And the people who work on the next machine, this is my machine. But it's all supposed to be one-piece flow. So what happens then is within that cell, you've got two separate cells. So this is what's really essential, to have these teams multi-trained. So our teams themselves, we have between 4 and 6 operators in the teams. That's a really good size. If it's smaller than that, then you tend not to generate so many ideas. So it's good to have that amount. But if you have too many people in your team, then when you have your team meeting around the board, you've got the little guy at the back just hides away. And he doesn't get involved in the team. So this is just the right amount. Now what we also do, we have one instructor for each team. Now within that team itself, you might have more actually trained instructors. As Mark was saying on the video earlier about the tipping point, we train the people, but they won't necessarily be trainers themselves. But once they're trained, they know exactly what's going to happen. They know the way they're going to be taught. So it starts changing that culture. Everyone knows exactly what to expect. But the instructors themselves, they need coaching. So this is where the senior coach comes into place. Now he'll spend his time making sure that the trainers themselves are doing the correct thing, they follow up on what they're doing. Because it's all about the follow-up. I know we've spoken about this before, but it's all about the follow-up. Now the senior coach, we've got WTE Blackbelt, which is a form of, I suppose, master trainer. But what he does, he follows up and makes sure that the senior coach is doing exactly what he should do. And we've got there, it says steering team, but it's all part of our leader standard work. So that is the managers responsible, challenge and support exactly what's going on the shop floor. So they need to know that what they want is being carried out, but if there's a blocking point anywhere, they've got to be the ones who are there to support it. Now, Denis was talking about the routines earlier as well. So, within that team, they do problem solving for 1 hour every week. Now, this is what we do at the moment, but this is our way of building that false bridge. Because what we'd like to do, we like to have an hour every day. But you've got to start somewhere. And bearing in mind, if you're doing that hour a week, all of those operators within that cell aren't at the machines. So you've got to make sure that you're getting return on investment for this. So we start off by doing an hour a week. That's what we're doing at the moment. But the job instruction itself, that is an hour a day, every day. So these guys, they don't necessarily all do it at the same time, but they will be released for that hour. And the senior coach, they make sure that the JI instructor is coached whenever he's doing it, because whenever these guys are doing it, they're new at the job, they'll make mistakes, and that's why the coach has got to be, the senior coach has got to be there for them. And also, this, developing team autonomy, the 5 needs. Yeah, remember we talked about the 5 needs? Knowledge of work and responsibilities, and skill in leading, improving and instructing. Now, if these people here have got that capability, then the supervisor, his time's freed up to do improvement work. And think how liberating that is for those operators to actually be able to do all the things they see their supervisor doing. And we do see it, and it's brilliant. And I don't want to spoil the fun, but there's a... No, I won't actually. There's a video coming soon anyway. Oh, and by the way, this is what we've actually got up on the shop floor itself. This is our... Because what we try to do is visualise everything we do as well. This is another key point. You've got to have visualisation everywhere. Because if you don't, we talk about standard work. How can you follow up your standard work if it's not visualised? So, in this instance here, this is our senior trainer. These are our JI trainers. So in this instance, we can actually see, the position's been filled since this was made, because this is a while ago, that we've got a senior trainer there and the last JI trainer on that shift. So this is all the different shifts. We've got blue, red and green shift. Now, this is a case study, and this shows how we've actually improved really quickly on one of our projects. Now, I'll give you a bit of background detail to this, because you're not aware of, well, you're obviously aware of what we do, but in our company, we have lots of different customers, and when we talk about batch sizes, we have very small batch sizes, and a small batch size means 1 card. So we make that card, and then we've got to change the machine over to make another card. It's like asking you guys from Lego to say, okay, we're going to make 1 yellow brick, that's it, we've made it, take it out, change the machine over, make them 1 red brick, now we're going to make a green brick. And it's like that. But there's a lot of variation in what the customer sends into us as well. So from day to day, we don't know what we're going to get from them. And the period of time we've got to deliver it is hours. So this has got to be fast-paced. So our problem was, we had lots of small changeovers, and we had to work out how we were going to reduce the time it took to do it. So we did a problem-solving team, and we had 2 teams on each shift, 1 on each shift. And what they did, they worked out a process of how they were going to change it, and they managed to actually, by using job methods, actually half the amount of time. So this was an absolutely brilliant story, but out of this was done quite a while ago, because people have talked about SOPs, and I suppose our version of an SOP, we used to use the flow charts. I mean, everyone familiar with flow charts? Yeah. So what would happen? You'll see this guy on the video in a minute, Graham. He came up to me one day. He said, Andy, he said, since we've been using TWI, he said, there seems to be a lot more arguments on the shop floor. He said, when we used to use the flow chart, it's like, right, this is how you train people. And they'd get on with it. He said it was crap, but they got on with it. He said, but we use TWI. He said, everyone's just like, no, that's not the right way to do it. This is how I do it. This is how I do it. And everyone was arguing about how they did it because everyone had their own key point. So what we did, we got everyone's key points together. We said, okay, what's the best way of doing it then? And someone said, I think it's this way. I think it's that way. I said, well, let's try it then. So we tried it all out. We had to go with everyone. And of course, once you've done that, if you can see someone's actually doing it better than someone else, it's like, fair enough. That's the way to do it. So we took all the key points and we said, right, this is the way we're going to do it now. And it's, yes, it was quite an advert for JR, actually, I suppose. So, is it another case study? And this was to do with, we were getting a lot of variation and mistakes, which were leading to customer complaints. Now, another part of our process, the small batches, once they're personalised, you get your envelope through the door with your card in. I assume it's the same in this country. You get your envelope with your card in, and you get all your inserts with it, tell you all your terms and conditions and things like that. So what someone has to do, when these batches are so small, they insert them by hand, because we've also got a larger inserting machine, but that tends to run larger batches. But with these, you've got to do it by hand because the changeover time's less. Now, so that means you have your card on your letter, and it goes in the envelope, and then you say, oh, I need this term and condition, you put it in there, which sounds really straightforward, and it really is. It's really tricky. There's so many things you can do wrong, and you wouldn't realise it until you do it. So what was happening, we were getting a lot of mistakes in this area. So what we did, we said, right, we're going to do another job instruction for this. And it was about 30 operators, but also we were going to change the layout. Again, it was a visual thing, and we're really hot on being visual in everything we do, and the layout had to be right. But this was more or less done by the Blackbelt. He was a very clever guy. He is a very clever guy. But it's like one of these things. If you're not on the shop floor, if you're not there doing it, you miss things. And that's exactly what happened. There you go. That was actually, the black belt was leading that. And the supervisors, but it was mainly the black belt. So we said, okay, it's better, but it's not brilliant. And if we're getting customer complaints, the customer's not happy at all. So it would say, right, we're going to do a problem-solving team, we're going to give this to the operators. So we did. And all of a sudden we realised, okay, we've missed a few things here about operators getting tired. And it's like, okay, so they can do it for 4 hours. Let's swap them around to do something else. Because over that period of time, they were sat at a table for 8 hours. Bang, bang, bang. And it's just, oh. I know, I've done it myself years ago. But so what we did, but then we also focus on what we call near misses. Now this is something it's absolutely brilliant. But you've got to let the ops know that if they make a mistake, they've got to tell you about it. And there's no consequences, because the mistake would be made at the table where they're working, there and then. Say they go to pick a wrong envelope up. It's like, okay, I've gone to pick it up, but I haven't done anything. Okay, but that's a near miss. Let's put that down. Because what that then does is generate your next problem-solving team. So you say, okay, we've had that problem, that problem, that problem. Let's break the job down again. Let's go through the whole system again. And this is evidence of the actual near misses that we had. Right, there's another story about this, and I wasn't going to tell it, but talking to Tina today, she really reminded me of, where's Tina? Yeah, she's there. That girl there, she's so lively and bubbly, and when I was talking to her, it just reminded me of her, so I thought of the story. Now, in this part, where we're doing really well, because we went down to 0 DPM, that part there, it was like, why was that? And it was one person kept making these errors. Now we found out that this person had a really serious problem. She was left-handed. And she was trained, and she was trained again, and it was like I say, that girl there, Debbie, she's quite the hand, and she went, right, that's it, I've had enough, I know what I'm going to do. And she picked up this stuff, and she walked out of the room. She was gone for about half an hour. She came back in, she said, Karen, over here, we're going to do some training. This job has 6 important steps. And what she did, she'd gone out of the room and taught herself to do the job left-handed. So she'd come in, taught the girl, and after that, it was brilliant. Just seeing someone improvise, because again, it was something that was missed. It was only that one thing.
Just leave that for a second. There's a, this case study is so important for us because it was like kind of the watershed for a lot of different things, all of these great stories that you can tell afterwards. But, one thing that happened, of course, the customer in our environment, this is like building a space shuttle, right? You're not allowed to make a mistake because if I get your bank card, you're unhappy. And really, we've, nearly lost some customers in the past over that. If you cock it up once, then it's okay. It's not okay, but it's kind of, forgivable. If you make a mistake twice, you lose that customer, and that could be a global account. So it's quite critical, personal identification, your bank account number and stuff like that. You can more or less imagine what kind of reaction that causes. So this customer, major UK bank, I won't name them, they were really annoyed about it. But once we've turned it around, of course, the next visit that they come regularly to our plant, we took them, production manager took them around and saying, look what we've done here, and they were so excited about it. Now, every time they come, they asked about the next operator problem-solving project. What are your operators? They're not interested in all of their charts anymore. They just want to go to the shop floor and actually see. So we've really, this is kind of this, quintessential sort of, problem turned into golden opportunity type stories. But it's fantastic. The other thing that this did for us, this was our first real operator problem solving. That's now a while back. But we keep on telling the story because this, before customer, improvement specialist, but he's not on the line all the time, right? Let's send it over to the operators because it didn't quite work with the Blackbelt, and the operators bring it down to 0 defects. 0 defects is possible, but only if you're on the line all the time. So this, switch to near miss. When you get to 0 defects, what problems are you catching? Well, you're catching the problems that haven't quite occurred yet. It's like in health and safety, the almost problems or the near misses, and then the next step, I guess we haven't gone to that, is kind of the anticipation of what could go wrong, like in healthcare and stuff like that. But anyway, a really, really cool case study, lots of stuff going on here, and that really convinced a lot of people of going into teams and problem solving and stuff like that. Anyway, so we're going on to what's the next slide? Team transitions. Now, this is what Andy didn't want to tell you about, so I won't either. But we've seen the managers. And the managers are all kind of convinced. God, there's something going on with the computer. Can't get the cursor. Right, I'm nearly there. Here we go. Come on. There we go. Now let's have a listen to the operators and the supervisor.
Well, everybody's own way is always the best way, isn't it? So you need to find the best from everybody, don't you, first of all, and then make sure that everybody sticks to that way of doing it to stop all the mistakes. I think when people do it all in different ways, it can cause problems. I know that we've had problems with hand merge in an area before, where people are doing it in their own way. they're not following a certain procedure to do it. Well, they are following a procedure, but the TWI way is better because everybody's doing it exactly the same. So it just stops mistakes being made.
In the TWI way, all the reasons are there, everything's there, anything you need to know. In the old method, there was no, the reasons weren't there. They would just say that's done like that, but nothing was explained any further.
The manual metrics is a system which involves continuously monitoring problems as they arise on the machine on an hourly basis. That information can be used directly into a problem-solving team by the operators. And as the operators are generating the information, there's no hearsay, it's first-hand knowledge from the operators, and it's acted directly upon by the operators in the problem-solving teams.
There's many benefits to the A3 storyboard. It tells the story from start to finish of what the teams are trying to manage and achieve, and gives an up-to-date feedback whenever you look at it of where they're at and what results they've seen so far.
Job methods helped us catch the details by breaking it down step by step, logically. This keeps you on track and keeps you on the straight and narrow, to use a better term perhaps. The detail that is found means that nothing is missing, whereas perhaps historically you'd have jumped to conclusions too early, which wouldn't help because you may have missed a vital point. This method keeps you on track all the time, and it will help you with your evidence should you need further managerial support or acceptance.
Compared to the old method, which was quite bad because the problem would just go on and nothing would ever get solved, this is a much faster paced way of solving a problem, and you can get straight to the root cause of it.
But we're so fast paced out there right now. I mean, it's just so difficult because, like I say, I've got guys coming up me saying, when are we going to carry on with this? I'm like, and I don't want to lose that. And the thing is, the longer I leave being able to start back up again, that's when he's not interested, we're going to peel it off. So I'm aware that I know I've got to get on it. But with everything they keep throwing at us, it's like, well, where do you want us to start? You know what I mean? It's so difficult.
Okay, so there's the next mistake right there. Everybody keeps on talking about, how critical the supervisor is. Well, we kind of didn't listen to that until we got to actually doing this. So, there's a couple of points. Of course, the mistake of not paying enough attention to the supervisor. And the other thing I wanted, by the way, just to make a small comment there, we had a chat with Pat about this twice, really. We're saying A3 problem solving is really not problem solving. A3 doesn't solve your problem. A3 tells the story of how you've solved the problem and where you are in your journey. But the ideas are really generated by the job methods. So we've made the choice, to use the visual management of the A3 directly on the shop floor. So what you saw there, the board is actually, it's a big board and people are writing on it and stuff like that. So it visualizes the story, but it doesn't actually solve the story for the problem for you. It is in the job methods when when you're breaking down the job, you're identifying all of the details, and then you question every detail of the job, that you're generating all of these improvement suggestions. So that's where the magic happens. So, to avoid that confusion, which is kind of also, everybody, especially the ex-Toyota guys, right? A3 at the moment. Well, the truth is really, it's not really that great. I mean, it's cool, but it's, And the other thing is, again, non-Toyota, we're kind of not Toyota guys. I mean, we've learned a lot from Toyota, but of course there's a lot of stuff that, they've been doing it for 60 years. They don't really talk about the stuff that really matters, right? For us, it's not a cell without a team. It's not enough just to put some machines together. and you have two people maybe rotating at different speeds through the cells in order to adjust your takt time to customer demand, right? That's a particular environment with particular needs. In our environment, forgive me, takt time doesn't mean anything. It's not the sort of work that we're doing. We're using different pacer mechanisms, but takt time, we're banging out millions of cards each year, hundreds of thousands each day. And so the notion of, how much time have we got for a product? Well, it's split second. It doesn't really mean anything. Anyway, so there's a number of things that we're kind of discovering. But back to this. Now, the supervisor was, of course, left out, one of our big mistakes. And, the guy like, oh my God, how do I handle this? And now it's clear that as the teams advance, the supervisor gets left behind. And they really become obsolete. So now there's two ways. Either they evolve and we help them evolve, or there's the door. Because what else are they going to do? Or they go back to being an operator. And actually, one of my old boss, Jim, you've seen him speak, Bob Baird, yeah? He left the company. He's not that old, but he's kind of a previous boss. And he did teams back in the oil field and stuff like that. So, what happened really in those transitions is that some of the supervisors said, oh, I can't take it, I want to go back to becoming an operator. That's quite normal. Anyway, but we want to help these guys. We want to give them a chance. So what we're really saying, okay, you can argue about the sequence, but TWI in the 1940s provided us HR professionals. Lift your hands. Oh, one. Okay. They've given us a career path, the 5 needs. Knowledge of the work, knowledge of responsibilities, skill and improving, instructing, and leading people. Now I can build it up, I can codify that a little bit, I can put some structure around it in terms of the sequence and stuff like that, but this is essentially what we're doing. How do I take the supervisor? There's the target condition. My supervisor has the 5 needs fulfilled. How do I build it up? Well, that's the career path. And you can see this here. So as the operator teams are advancing, now TWI was developed to develop the supervisors. And in fact, one of the reasons why Toyota liked this, because they got into this strike scenario, and the operators were saying, the supervisors are no good and stuff like that, right, Jim? Exactly. There was this big strike, and they said, well, we really got to do something for the supervisors. And that's how they brought in TWI. That was one of the reasons why they brought in TWI and then the management training programs of the TWI saga as well. But anyway, so, we built this up. The operators are progressing, and the operators first run machines. Now they have to run the process. So the idea is to empower them. They run the process themselves. Once we get, and that's what we do with JI, right? We tell them not only the what and the how, what to do, how to do it, we also tell them the why, because that's empowering. Now they can challenge the process. The next step is, well, we really got to improve that process, right? Now that it's more or less stable, we really got to improve that process. And you get into JM, you get into problem solving, and the next thing, now they're running the process autonomously, the supervisor is all the while being freed up, right? They run the process, they improve their own process. Now we can actually let go. We haven't reached that stage yet, but that's kind of the next step that we're working on, in some of the teams now to get into JR and teach them how to handle the conflict, which typically is sort of, managerial attention, right? Oh, there's a conflict, I better go in there, I sort them out. The team themselves, once they become self-directed or autonomous, they have to be able to handle those tricky human scenarios, right? They have to give each other feedback and stuff like that. By the way, we've done one journey way back, not using TWI, where the teams ended up determining their own work time. They decided to take every Friday off to do some community work, and it was fine because they never missed the customer delivery, and the quality was perfect, and so on and so forth. So it is possible, even in a big organization, right? It doesn't have to be just the stories there in Brazil of a plant that is falling apart and then gets handed over to the operators who have their mini businesses under your roof or whatever, all of these famous stories. But now the supervisor has to make the same journey, and the supervisor transitions from being the brains of the shop floor and shoving around the work and firefighting and all of the stuff that they're doing, they're becoming coaches. Now I can't jump from being the brain to being an improvement guru in one hit. So as the teams are evolving, evolving. Now, these are then now our coaches. You know, in the structure, we're saying the coach for JI coach, which means that they are receiving the 40-hour training. So they can now teach the JI instructors to develop the teams and so on and so forth. But you can see how this evolves in parallel. Now, we didn't realize that, and that's why Richie there was pulling out his hair. Right, the transition. We're kind of, you know, predominantly working sort of in the middle area, JI, JM. That's the stage where we're at, now exploring JR more. 5 needs. We've just talked about the skills. Here's, of course, the knowledge of the work. And at operator level, the knowledge of the work is actually taught using JI. Right? The knowledge of the work is what I do, how I set up the machine, how I run the machine, how I do my quality controls and stuff. That is the knowledge of the work. It's also the skill, but that's kind of the equivalent. So this is your typical TWI training plan. At the top, at the bottom, we've got, you know, we've been talking about process confirmation. This is how we confirm the process of TWI, what we are going to talk about that a little bit later. Then there's this bit about, so here we're planning the work, you know, these are all top level, these are the top level jobs, there are breakdowns below this. This is one team, this is the instructor that is associated with the team. Each individual has a training record, and that is also linked to the quality management system because it's part of our system. So there's an electronic record. So the HR department can go into that and say, oh, you know, so-and-so has made their journey in the career path, they've reached this level, we're going to pay them more. So all of that needs to be linked together. It's taking us some time to actually figure that out, and it's more or less working. Now, this was the other story of going full scale into training so many operators. So, quick case study. This kind of takes me back to the 7 steps. Now, you start out doing a pilot. The pilot delivers, right? The 7 steps that Pat was talking about. And now you've got some evidence. You go back to senior management. They say, yeah, let's go with JI. And then what? Right now, there's the real challenge. Now, look at all of these jobs that have to be broken down. You know, just for basic machine operation, right? Then you've got one machine. Below that, you've got program settings. Below that, you've got you know, program settings for the embedding. Or embedding is when we put the chip into the card. And inside that, we've got all of these jobs to train. So, you know, bite-sized chunks. That's a lot of job instruction to be done. You know, multiply this out. 120 operators times 60 job instructions. That's a lot of work. Now, that's the real complication. How do you structure that? You know, prioritization and so on and so forth. But this is how we made, or where we made most of our mistakes, actually. We were successful in the end, but it was a painful 4 months, I can tell you. We ended up, you know, we had 60% of our workforce that was actually only able to run one machine. We ripped out the wall. Now suddenly it was one department. We put them into cell flow. We had 3, 4 different types or 5 different types of machine in one cell, and we cross-trained the operators. We ended up after 4 months with 50% of our workforce, a few less workers because we had delegated them to other, you know, cellular manufacturing didn't require that many people, so they were doing some other stuff. But 50% of our people were running 3 machines and more. So it can be done. But again, you know, one of the things that we kind of learned, don't really do it. But this kind of is interesting, I think. You know, you're breaking down your jobs. You have to, we call that a job instruction breakdown tree. You take the top level of your operations, the machines, and you're breaking it down into smaller chunks, and you start understanding quite how monumental the undertaking is if you want to really roll that out across your plant. Yeah? Right. Andy. That's you.
Okay. So we're talking about the elements driving fast pace. Oh, cheers. I think Denis mentioned it earlier as well about the guys from Lego were saying that 30% of their time was to be spent on instruction. Now the way you would do that is routines that activate and build capacity. Going back to what I was saying earlier about the 1 hour a day, the 1 hour a week, these are the things that drive the fast pace. Because if you miss or you don't carry on with the routines, it slips. And when we say there about build momentum or leader standard work, now that's when we talk about the leader doing their standard work, making sure that all this takes place. That's the driver behind that. But once you've got that in place, over a period of time, this is our normal work now. This is what we do every day. And because one thing that's always, we can't afford to spare people, we've got to get the work. And sometimes, on some occasions, that does happen. You have an emergency. Like I say, our turnaround is like hours. So if you've got an emergency, you've got to do it. And if you've got to miss one session because of that, but that's got to be the exception. It's got to be the exception. And that comes from the leading standard work, their follow-up, making sure, okay, happened on this occasion, we'll make sure it doesn't happen tomorrow. We'll see what happened. And that's what drives it. So here's another case study. And if you look on the top, it only works with follow-up. So this process is the lamination process. So when your card's made, it starts off on a large sheet. But that sheet, your card, is made up of loads of layers, loads of plastic layers. And what they do, it's a really manual process. They stick all these sheets together, and then they've got to put, they've got these plates that go on top, and these plates are very flat, very shiny, very smooth. And then to laminate them, they put them into an oven, and they're pressurised and they're heated, and it's done over a period of time, and they come out looking like the card you've got, and you can cut the individual cards out. But again, it's a very manual process. And if there's the sheet that actually they put on top of it, it's very easy to scratch it. And of course, once that's scratched, the whole sheet is knackered. And the cost of that, because it's not just cards, they do it on the passports. Do you know where you've got your passport, you've got the little ID tag in there? Now, if you ruin those, the cost of that is unbelievable.
There's a microchip inside, so that's quite expensive.
Mm. But when you've got new trainees, and there's a lot of people, they put a lot of people, it says there, frequently new operators on the line. Now, if you get new operators in, before you train them, you sort of like, okay, we'll give you an easy job to do. And you tend to give them something manual. So what was happening, they were going straight onto this job. So they were doing the manual job. But it was identified. So, like, let's do a job instruction. Let's do job instruction. Let's make sure that this is done perfectly. So they wrote the job instruction. The girls were trained. You know, they were watched. Fine. And it was a case of, yes, we've done it. We've written the best job instruction we can possibly do. This is fantastic. So then they went back and looked, okay, how are we doing now? Oh, not very well. Because everyone was so pleased they'd done such a good job instruction, they didn't bother seeing what they'd done afterwards. So it was, okay, we've done our bit. There was no follow-up. No follow-up at all. And it is so key, the follow-up. I can't emphasise, because I've been through this journey and I've seen it so many times, and it is so key. If there's one thing you take from this, it's know that you've got to follow up everything you do. Make sure you do. So, I went back, and there was rigorous operator observation, whatever that means. And then the result from there was it brought it right down again. So there was a lesson learned, the follow-up. That only works with follow-up. Now, this is our coaching process. Now, if you look on the right-hand side, that is actually it says 1 hour a day, but that's the whole process, because you've got the senior trainer, which is basically, they're doing their 10-hour course. They train the instructor. So then the instructor breaks down the jobs. They train, and the operator applies the work, which is fine, which is the way we're supposed to do it. But if you see next to that, step 4, follow-up. We've got to make sure we follow up exactly what they're doing. So, the senior trainer, once the instructor's done his breakdown, gives it to the senior trainer to review. Now, when the senior trainer reviews it, we use a checklist. And this is something we push during the 10-hour course now. We put this into the 10-hour course. These checklists are so important. This is how we coach. This is what we use to coach, the checklist. Because what we were finding, every time we were doing a job breakdown, we were getting the same feedback over and over. So we thought, okay, we're just asking the same question. Everything's the same. So we got these series of questions that we ask. When we get the JI back, we ask these questions. If it's yes to everyone, that's fine. Your JI is fine. No, okay, you're going to have to work on that again. But it makes it so simple. Also, it's the same when the instructor trains, the senior trainer will observe him. And what they also do, they've got their observation checklist. Did the instructor get them ready to instruct? Did they prepare the learner properly? Did they put them at ease? All this is on there. So they're watching them, they do a little checklist. Yeah, did that? No, didn't do that. I'll mention to them afterwards. Another checklist. But also, we've got the manager there. He makes sure these routines happen. They won't go onto the shop floor and watch an operator do his job. They'll make sure the senior trainer is doing his job. And also make sure the instructor's doing their job. And this is our follow-up. Oh, incidentally, if you see that card there, that's the same as the card you've got in your pack, but we obviously manufacture plastic cards. So what we've done, we've made our own ones. You can have a look at them afterwards, actually. But again, this is our follow-up to how we... And actually, Dennis, I know Dennis wants to say...
Yeah, there's just, we got to speed up now. I think we have 8 minutes left. But there's one, we've been talking about process confirmation, and, it sounded a little bit like, in some cases, that we could assume that the manager necessarily has to do the confirmation of the work that the operator does. Now, the job instruction method has step 4 follow-up, and that step 4 follow-up is part of the job instruction method. So it's the instructor who has to make sure that the follow-up is done. That's first and foremost, it's the instructor's responsibility. They need to go back and confirm with the operators. So the key question is, if we do process confirmation, if we want to use that word, which process is it actually that we're confirming here? And that's what Andy is saying. Well, actually, the managers are not, well, okay, we're saying, okay, now and again they go away to observe the standard work, but not to make sure that the operator does what they're supposed to do, but to find out whether the actual routines are in place and the training actually works. So we got to be a bit careful with the messages that we're driving into your organization. It's not the primary role of the manager, but the primary role of the job instruction instructor to do the follow-up on the standard work. That's the way that we structure, and that's the way that the TWI method, as far as we understand it, actually works. Right, I think it's... let's see. Coaching support. Mm-hmm. Technology.
Although the TWI instructors are very capable of doing the training, we need to make sure that ongoing they retain their method.
Being overseen, and which really helped me because every time I'd done something wrong, they corrected me straight away, so which helped me train other people who needed to learn. So yeah, it was really good. I had really good support.
Yes, it is challenging, and it's, I wouldn't say frustrating, but it can be. It always needs a lot of tweaking. The original one and the final one, if there is ever a final one, if there is ever a final one, you can always change it.
First of all, it was hard because I was trying to work it out, but it's quite simple. You just got to find the right words to use, the easy words to remember, and that's it.
It's also good when you use it on somebody. It's good to look back on it and see if there's anything else that you need to change to it to make it better for the next person in the future.
Okay. Right. So we've now covered the transitions, the coaching, a bit more on follow-up. Of course, follow-up requires some form of ability to see when things are going wrong or not happening correctly. This is why visual management is so important. So TWI plus visual management, you don't need to do anything else. That's our, having come full circle from master, black belt and all of that, why do all of that? It's a waste of time. Let's focus on the stuff that really delivers the change. So visualization is critically important. Now, this is one of our shop floors. You can see, isn't that visual? Wouldn't you be able to see that things are out of place and stuff like that? So, the ability to just pick up stuff as you just walk through the shop floor, what we call 5S. Well, let's call it visualization. Or, the guru of visual management, global guru, if you want to read on visual management and you want to find out more about it beyond the, well-established stuff that you're hearing, Gwendolyn Galsworth, work that makes sense. I mean, she's the guru on visual management. It's unbelievable. There's so much that you can do. Visual management plus TWI, really, you don't need to do anything else. And we're just scratching the surface, but you can see here, we've got the boards here. The boards are associated with each manufacturing cell or personalization cell. The cell has a team, the team has a board, so they can catch problems, solve problems, and stabilize the process. So the visual management reflects the improvement method. And this is the way that the system kind of comes together. And then when the manager goes to the shop floor, of course, they might observe some standard work and stuff like that, but the real task for the manager is to make sure that the routines are happening and that the routines are delivering results. So it's essentially a coaching role, going there to promote the strategy. This is where we want to go. Okay, you're doing problem solving, but that's the Mike Rother's story, right? We have a target condition. You can do whatever you want, but we're going to end up over there. We're going to end up over there. That's our strategy. That's the target condition. Now, we've given you the tools to navigate this uncertain, uncharted territory. So we're giving you the direction, or at least the end, outline of what the end result is going to be, rough outline, not too detailed, otherwise we're restricting creativity. And we've given you the tools how to navigate this uncertain territory. That's, of course, the theme of Carter. So this is pretty cool stuff. And again, we're by no means masters at this, but this is what we do. This is really important to us.
Again, follow up. I just want to go through this quickly. This top section is when we talked about turning over a project really quickly, that's our timescale. Look how many times it mentions JM in there. That's the key. A3 tells the story. Job methods gives you the solution. So that's really important to know that. And if you look at week 2, JM step 2, that's got its own section. That's got its own...
Question every detail.
Yeah.
Question every detail.
Because that's where the ideas come from. And that's the important, really important. Now the rest of this is the follow-up. So that is directly related to that. So you've got your 4 circles up there. This would show if it took place. Now, we've got red and yellow on there as well as green. Green means the session took place. Red means it didn't take place for the reasons I was talking about earlier. And yellow means it took place, but we didn't get where we wanted it to. Because normally it gets stuck in there in week 2. But from there, the manager will see this, because this part is on our strategic board as you walk in the door. The rest of this is actually on the boards within the cell itself. So that the guys will say, okay, we've got a red there, let's go over and see what happened. And it's all about looking at the status, the trend and the priority. That's what the guys are looking for. That's what the managers are looking for when they go over to the cell. This is in the cell. This tells them that all the JI activity that I said is taking place on the strategic board, on the cell board, yeah, it is taking place. But there, perhaps it didn't take place. So on another board, some of these would be red. They didn't take place. They'll ask why. They'll find out. They catch the problems. It's all about catching problems.
Yeah. Just a little extension on the bottom one here. This is how we are confirming that the 4-step instruction method is actually taking place. Because if we're saying 30% of our instructor time, we're not saying that. We're saying one hour a day. That wouldn't be 30%. But if we're saying something like that, we also know more or less what our JI capacity is going to be, right? You know, I've got 1 hour, maybe a job instruction breakdown takes me about 4 minutes to train if it's bite-sized chunk for 1 iteration. 4 times 7 is 28, thank you. Which gives me 1 minute for the step 1, prepare the learner, and 1 minute for the follow-up introduction or whatever. That's kind of half an hour, right? So I know that in that 1 hour, if I'm training people, I've got more or less 2 job instruction breakdowns that I can train if I've got somewhat of a notion of quite how big the job instruction breakdown can be to be a bite-sized chunk. But anyway, we have to finish up. But this is kind of how we follow up. So these guys are planning how much they're going to achieve, what they're going to do with the work on the training plan. Yeah, that's the time that I've got available. I'm going to train Peter and Gwen, yeah, in this hour. And then I follow up whether I actually achieved what I set out to do. So there's a lot of simple stuff that is happening, but it's all visualized. I'm not going to tell you about this. It's a really cool. But John has said to me, I can't talk to you. So I'm going to show you just one more video. Right. I mean, that is really cool. That's a recent. Well. Anyway.
Next year, Denis. Next year.
Next year. Hold on. Oh. Now that is painful. Right. Must be more painful watching me agonize here. Right.
Now that the ownership of the problem-solving boards is in the hands of the operators, it really gives us a sense of great teamwork, and we can now get to the bottom of problems a lot easier and a lot more civilised because we discuss it as a team. The whole team is involved in it and nobody's missed out. The fact that it's operator-based means that they know what they're talking about as well. It's fast-paced. We seem to be able to track it very well and follow it along very well. It does involve everybody, and everybody has their say, and in that respect, everybody's listened to.
Oh, being involved in the problem-solving team, I felt quite empowered. I felt that I was asking for what I wanted, and they were giving me what I wanted, which made me feel better at doing my work because I felt more productive, because I was comfortable at work and having everything I wanted in front of me. So I felt good about that.
We rest our case.
So thank you very much, Denis and Andrew. Are there any short questions for the 2 gentlemen? Yeah, Thomas?
Hi.
Hi.
It's just maybe I missed something, but you talk about the 1 hour per week problem solving.
Yeah.
Is it put into a structure, like a corridor, or is it?
It's directly on the shop floor.
That's on the shop floor.
Directly by the cell.
Yeah, but is it at certain times, or is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's say for each cell, we've got an hour dedicated. Of course, if there's, as Andy was saying, in this it is a truly fast-paced, customer-driven environment. So there might be reasons why we have to postpone it to the next day or something like that. You know, if there's, you know, particularly high load and particularly large number of small batches coming in or whatever when we're up against it. But typically it's, let's say on Thursday, 4 o'clock. Now the senior trainer knows that they have to get to the shop floor, you know, for the coaching and stuff. It needs to be planned for. The supervisor needs to plan for it. You know, you need to release the people, you need to allocate your work, or you need to make sure that you're planning ahead. And if it doesn't happen, there's a good chance it doesn't happen if you don't do that.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you, Andrew.
Oh, thank you.
For being part of this, and thank you, Denis.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.